My childhood was very chaotic. My father didn't want to have anything to do with me or my mom, so my mom raised me by herself. And my mom had a lot of unresolved issues of her own from her own childhood. So parenting me was very difficult for her, and that caused her to be verbally and physically abusive to me, so my home life was very chaotic. And then I experienced sexual abuse outside of the home several times in my childhood. So not having a father, having a very tumultuous relationship with my mother, and experiencing sexual abuse really affected me and created a traumatic childhood and a childhood that felt very unsafe. And in retrospect, I can see that I was very angry at God and felt very abandoned and rejected by Him because of these things. So those things really led to me struggling with an eating disorder at a young age, obsessive compulsive disorder, behavioral issues with anger and rebellion. When I was 15, I moved to Los Angeles with my mom, and I was very excited about this move and very hopeful, but the transition ended up being really, really difficult for me at that age, and so I was back in a major depressive state, a lot of anxiety. I started struggling with self-harm, and so once I felt like the psychotropic medication wasn't doing its job as well, I turned very intentionally to substances to self-medicate. And so I spent my high school years and into my early 20s in and out of psychiatric hospitals, rehabs, treatment centers, and I was in another psychiatric hospital. And I remember being in that psychiatric hospital bed and feeling the absolute lowest that I have ever felt in my entire life. And I felt like I heard the voice of God say to me, "Are you done running?" And it was a very loving, kind voice. And I just surrendered in that moment to Jesus, and everything in me was like, yes. And it was like every part of my being knew that what He had to offer me was so much greater than what I had been choosing. So in that moment, I gave my life to the Lord, and that's what began my real healing journey. And that's what ended up leading me to mercy. The thing that stands out to me the most is the feeling of safety. I don't think I had ever felt the level of safety that I felt when I was in the Mercy home. And for someone who experienced trauma in the formative years of my life and not really ever feeling safe, that feeling was unlike anything I had ever experienced before. And it was transformative in and of itself. The Lord used the staff there to teach me so many incredible truths and principles that completely changed my life, that have carried me through my life all these years later. That was one of the biggest things I learned from the staff, is walking in integrity and being truthful and honest. And those were character qualities that I did not have before. My redemption with my mom and my dad are two of the most miraculous parts of this whole story. So my relationship with my mom has been completely restored. And then my father, I was able to meet my father for the first time 8 years ago. And I was able to offer my father forgiveness in person and expect nothing from him. That is fruit from my transformation at Mercy and the principles that I learned about forgiveness and God's love. I've been able to walk alongside many other women that have been in the same place that I was in, dealing with many of the same issues. I've been able to be a mentor and a guide and a support to them and journey with them through their healing journey. I think child Julia would be so proud of adult Julia. I think she would see me as an advocate for her and for other people who are broken and hurting and feel like they don't have a voice. I think I'm an example to her that she's worthwhile. She has value and worth, and that fighting for her life is worth it. And I think she'd be really proud of that.